What's going on, everybody? Welcome into a special edition of the Daily Energy Newsbeat Stand Up here on this gorgeous Friday, March 10th, 2023. We have, as I mentioned, a special show. We are going to run back and play you our top segments from this week. It was a crazy week, Stu. We had a lot of stuff happen. So we're going to run it back. Stay tuned. Again, all of the info you are about to hear is courtesy via the world's greatest website, energynewsbeat.com. Check us out. Hit the description below. We will see you folks on Monday. Enjoy the show.
Hey, let's go ahead and start with the one that I'm a little confused on, as far as everybody is jumping up and down and saying China's demand is going to change the world. Well, this article is Forget Peak Oil Demand. A thirst for barrels puts $100 a barrel in view. Now, remember, that's Brent, not WTI. And so, Michael, I think that it's really the demand is going to be there, but Amin Nasser, CEO of Saudi Aramco, says the demand from China is very strong, but I don't think it's going to drive it to the $100. I think I like the way that he is positioning this. My view, shorthand, is maybe people are underestimating demand, is overestimating U.S. production. Chief economist at Trader Trafigura Group said.
Trafigura.
Thank you. Bless you. And I don't know. What are your thoughts?
But yes, it's Trafigura is one of the largest physical oil and metals traders in the world. There's a great book called The World is for Sale by Javier Baez and Jack Farchi. Great book, which covers the history of Rich & Co., Trafigura, Vitol, all of the big oil and metal traders. So it is kind of funny, though. They got this chief economist at Trafigura. In my view, shorthand is maybe people are underestimating demand and overestimating U.S. production. Bro, you get paid to be bullish. Your literal job is to convince the world that we should buy more oil and that they should buy it from you. So exactly. I'm going to take anything that the Saeed Rahim, I'm sure he's brilliant, but he's literally is paid to be bullish. So it's a backhanded way of saying, yes, he's probably going to see that. I mean, on the Brent side, here's this. You can make an argument for both. I think there's a set of facts that when you look at them, you can come to the conclusion of, oh, wow, yeah, we probably are underestimating what China's demand is going to do once they come back and start really ramping up their needs. What's that going to do? And I think they point out specifically the U.S. production. That's a very valid point. And when we've seen this, there are all sorts of studies that you can go find. And we'll link a couple in the descriptions below and I'll send them to our team so they can make sure they link it, showing that outside of the Permian Basin, overall oil and gas production has declined. New oil and gas wells are coming on not as productive as they used to. We're running out of really, really good tier 1 acreage. Where is the growth going to come from in the U.S. market to keep up with what will be, regardless of where you fall on the bullish versus bear side? We do know demand will grow. The question is how much. And if China accounts for more than we expect and we see a higher demand spike than we expect, things could get tight. I tend to agree with the facts on the other side that say things are pretty balanced right now and already at a pretty inflated level. I mean, as we sit now, WTI is $79, basically $80. Brent is at $86.74.
Right.
Is there $14 on Brent room to run north? Is there that much excess demand? Is there that much sentiment on the demand side coming from China? I don't know. And I do know that there are lots of oil projects coming online in the Gulf of Mexico. Think about it. $100 oil is a huge, huge spurn for these large integrated oil companies. They go out and really where the needle moves is that Gulf of Mexico production. But you have to think about it. These are 6-month projects. So you turn a well, you go start drilling a pad in Gulf of Mexico in July of 2021 or 2022, when that project gets greenlit at $110 oil. You're not seeing production on that for 6 months, 8 months because of the entire you're probably just starting to flow back some of these bad boys and just now starting to realize and see some of that real uptick in production. So I'm a little bit mixed on this analysis. I mean, obviously Trafigura is going to agree and going to say bull. I mean, I would do the same thing if you were paying me as much money as this guy's getting paid.
Yeah, pay us. Let's find out.
I'm cheap.
Yeah, we are cheap, but better looking, I bet. Hey, well, maybe. I haven't looked in the mirror lately. Hey, one of the things though that really concerns me, my hesitancy to put a number on China is out there right now. And saying, hey, it's going to impact us this much. OPEC just came out and said that they're really not sure. There are over 30 tankers a month right now that are going to the dark and the gray fleets. So that is something that OPEC and that everyone else is really not considering, is Russian and Iranian and Venezuela inputs to China and India. Everybody's saying those demands are going up. Yep. How much oil is going to be supplied by the dark fleet? That to me tells me that OPEC is more afraid of that in trying to figure out pricing. I have no clue on how to figure out the pricing anymore, but that dark fleet is going to be substantial.
I'm not surprised that you gravitate towards the dark fleet.
Yeah, me and Luke Skywalker, we know how to find that dark side. Okay. Next article, dude. This is pretty funny. This is an opinion piece, and BP's Beyond Petroleum rolls back climate emissions. It sends a different kind of message, Michael. Now, we've been talking about this for several weeks now, but I like this one because it really fit in with our other stories as well, too. BP drank the Kool-Aid. I mean, if they were in, was it, where was the thing where everybody was drinking the Kool-Aid and got killed?
It was down in Cuba. It was Jim Jones.
Jim Jones in Jamestown or whatever.
Yes, Jamestown.
Yeah. So anyway, they all drank the religion there. And here's what the problem is. They went, Chevron stayed the course. They were the poster child of, really holding on tight. Then you take a look at, it's the French Total Energy. That's an Oklahoma way to talk.
Total, it's a total.
Total. Give me a total. Man, I can't handle it. I'm just, both of our fans just threw up. But when we sit back and take, Total is now actually increasing their drilling programs. They're going, if BP can do it, we can do it as well too. They just announced an increase in their drilling. Shell is doing the same thing. They are now rolling back. And this goes back to when you and I were talking a little while ago about the CEOs in front of Congress, and they stood up to Congress. Go US big oil CEOs. I'm proud of them. Okay.
Well, I think there's a really important quote at the bottom of this, and I'd recommend reading this whole article again. You can click the description and see and check this article out. One of the final sentences: the big oil companies figured this out years ago and generally avoid tech-based climate solutions. Why? Because they know how to drill for oil and gas. You start getting into these other business models, it's tough. I mean, I just listened to a podcast with the former CEO of IBM, Gina, right. What's her last name? Rafferty or whatever. She was the CEO of IBM from 2012 to 2020, a period where they had to completely shift their business model from physical infrastructure to now cloud-based. It's not easy. It's not hard. No. And one of the few reasons a company's able to do that is slow change and progress and all this stuff. It doesn't happen overnight. BP decided 2 years ago they want to be a wind farm company. You want to be a wind farm company? Cool. It's going to take multiple decades in order to completely roll out and really rebuild a business. I mean, because they're two different business models. not to get on a total side rant here, but there used to, 3-4 years ago, and right when I was getting into grad school, one of the projects they had me work on was, oh, well, we need to try to build education programs to take people who work in oil and gas and train them to work in renewables. And what you realize real quickly is there's no transferable skills. The only skills that are transferable are transferable to all other industries: project management experience, understanding how to hit deadlines, budgeting. But that goes to any deal, not just what a wind farm looks like. Everything else about understanding and building, like, say, exclusive, like an offshore wind development, has very little to do with it. You need a structural engineer out there. Petroleum engineer is designing how an offshore wind should shoot. We're not qualified for that. So, side rant. The idea that you can just pivot your whole, we've got smart people here, we're going to teach them to do an offshore wind farm, is ludicrous.
Yes. No, that would be hideous. But hats off to the U.S. Big Oil. Inflation Reduction Act is very good at one thing: making billionaires richer. For our podcast listeners, the article has a picture of, I believe, Captain Kangaroo's son. If you don't know who Captain Kangaroo is, this kid looks just like Captain Kangaroo. But anyway, Fairhead Fred Abraman, 84. He'd be about the right age for Captain Kangaroo's son. Instead, Denver-based software entrepreneur made his initial fortune in 1990s publishing software Quark Express. But he's then had another investment. Imbrami made West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin for his recent good fortune, the Inflation Reduction Act. And I believe that Dan Bongini calls it the Porculus Bill, is actually correct. These are about the solar panels. Even before the bill, First Solar had a backlog, which is now ballooned to more than 16 gigawatts. That means billions in tax credits for First Solar and ample incentive to build more factories in Ohio, Indiana, and India. Osborne thinks that the company can deliver these expectations. Earnings could grow to $24 a share by 2026. The number one problem with the Inflation Reduction Act, it has zero ability to reduce the inflation. It's going to put all of the money into renewable pork, and it's going to be driving a lot of foreign countries coming in to tap into that money. So he is a perfect example of a investor that his solar investment is worth $1 billion, and it is growing even more. So investors investing in solar are good. The rich get richer and the poor get the bill on their energy bill.
Yeah, I mean, it comes as no surprise that when you hand out billions of dollars of subsidies, that the rich who run the companies are going to just basically be able to swoop in and basically take all of this. So that doesn't come as a shock to me. I do agree with Bongino's analysis. This thing is full of a lot of pork. So it'll be, again, we know how it's getting doled out. If you're in the renewable space, you're going to have your hand out, and it's going to be interesting to see how all of this plays out, Stu. Again, I'm not a political expert, so I don't want to pontificate on how you go about fixing this, other than there's no reason to even pass this bill in the first place.
Well, the one thing that I do am taking offense to is people saying that an article yesterday came out on Sunday or the day before and said $16 billion of subsidies were given back to oil and gas investors. That is not true. The stock buyback programs are money that they've earned going back to investors. That's not subsidies, but the other folks are calling those subsidies. Okay, let's get through with that one. Let's go to my favorite, Oxy CEO, Vicki Hollub doesn't seem to be worried about White House pressures on buybacks and oil prices. I love, I absolutely think the world of Vicki. We talked about this yesterday. She took the holistic approach of, hey, I'm going to be an oil person, but I'm going to tap into the carbon capture game, which is a multi-trillion-dollar market. And she was the top player in the S&P 500 last year. That's not bad. You're the top.
No,
You're the top
not at
dog.
all. Not at all. I think it's, and I think another interesting thing to point out is the fact that Oxy, they took a different approach to the ESG game. Whereas the super majors, and you could consider Oxy a super major or not, they're not necessarily fully integrated downstream, but I mean, they do have OxyChem, they do have a little bit of a midstream interest. So they do a little bit. They, unlike their peers, BP and Equinor and Total, instead of investing in wind and solar projects, they went to what you said, the carbon capture market, much more contiguous or analogous with the oil and gas business than is trying to build offshore wind farms, which is a whole new business. Like, it's literally relearning how to do everything. So it's really smart. There's a reason they were the number one performing stock, both in the S&P and just in oil and gas, for that reason. And I think they were the best performing oil and gas stock because they have really good rock. They have really good acreage in West Texas. They have really good Colorado acreage, very close with the Colorado team up there. They've very good returns on that. I know it's been lightly marketed a few times, and they haven't come close to seeing anything in which would come a decent offer for that acreage. I mean, it's a very healthy cut to their bottom line. But then also why they've been number one. That's why they've been number one in the oil and gas space in terms of returns. In the overall markets, obviously oil and gas has done really well. But you add on top of that, investors see them as both green, quote unquote, and having actual sound fundamentals with oil. So I think it's great. There's a reason Warren Buffett invested in them. He's made a boatload off this. Good for him.
And they had 12% production growth last year, Michael. That's even with giving their money back and everything else. So if you take a 12% production growth with a lower CapEx, holy smokes, that's
they're drilling 4-mile laterals up in Colorado.
Wow. That's talent. That's talent right there. Small, not modular nuclear reactors may be the go-to energy source. And Michael, this article is really important from the standpoint that by the time you get a real big reactor, it's 20 years to get approved. The smaller ones are coming around the corner, and they're going to be able to be made in a production line. And that way you're able to use these and drop them off. Simply must have some form of base load. I'm reading from Jeff Merrifield. You simply must have some form of reliable base load power, because you can't get there with these assets that operate part of the time, like wind or solar, says Jeff Merrifield, partner at Pillsbury, Winthrop, Shaw, and Pittman, a former nuclear regulatory commissioner. Nuclear power plant is more costly up front, but it has assets that operate for over 80 years. If you compare it to wind and solar, they generally have a 20-year lifetime, and batteries for about 8. And I think if you divide that number by 2, you're actually closer to right. They generally have a 10-year and 4 years, but we'll leave that alone. Anyway, this goes with that other article of energy security. We need small nuclear for baseline. Anyway, your thoughts?
No, I mean, nuclear is in theory and probably on paper, even though you could argue, is probably the best for baseload energy supply. which is critical to sustaining growth in a emerging market or keeping the quality of life wherever you live.
Right.
Now, am I in favor of just trying to make modular nukes and everyone's walking around with, Fat Boy and Little John in their trunk? I mean, I don't know if that's quite the conversation I'm willing to have yet. I mean, can you imagine you you pull out your laptop and there's just a little nuke in there because it's powering your laptop? I mean,
all right, now you're watching too many Marvel things when you got Iron Man rolling around with a nuke.
Exactly. But that's what everybody jumps to. That's my point. Everybody jumps to modular nukes. What? They're going to be in my car?
No, modular nukes at this particular point are going to be the size of a semi, or they're going to be the size of 2 or 3 semis. It's going to be the same size that powers ships.